Hey everyone, how are you doing? My name is Regalado, the founder of Route the Service Platform. It's a sales platform for the commercial cleaning services industry. I am also the owner of Rozalado Services, a family-owned commercial cleaning company. So welcome to Cleaning and Cocktails, a show where I get the opportunity to sit down with cleaning industry experts and share stories, talk shop about the industry. So grab your cocktail, listen in, and I hope you guys enjoy the show. Everybody, welcome. This is another episode of Cleaning and Cocktails, where I get to speak to industry experts and just talk shop on the industry that has been so good to me. I know so good to everybody else here listening too. I've got the pleasure of talking shop with two individuals that have made a big impact on this industry. Doc here from Doc Facilities, I've gotten to know through the ISSA shows. Jordan, we're good friends. We've gotten to know each other because you'll get to learn a little bit more about him and how we've learned to get to know each other. But what I wanted to do is first give you guys some time to introduce yourselves and let everybody know who you are, what you do, and just give us a little bit of story and a background on you guys. So Doc, I'll start with you first.
All right, well, I am divorced. Started my own janitorial company 7.5 years ago, been in the industry over 35 years. Years ago, about 7 years ago, I went to the ISSA, one of the train the trainer meetings, and thought I was going to ace my scores and get my certifications in the cleaning world. And when I got there, I thought I knew everything and realized I knew nothing. So I've spent like the last 7 years really redefining myself, my company. And when we started Doc's Facility Solutions, it was more about cleaning from the health standpoint as opposed to the appearance cleaning that has been the way that most quotes and jobs are. And lo and behold, hey, we have a pandemic, and it's, part of it's because so many of us in this industry have been trained incorrectly over the years, and some of the super bugs that are out there, I'm not even talking COVID-19 or the coronavirus, but some of the super bugs are because we live in a spray and wipe world, and it's not how you kill anything, And green cleaning where, we can't kill anything. Well, that's what disinfectants do. They have to kill to be effective. And the reason why I got into that was because my middle son, a little over 19 years ago, was diagnosed as broad spectrum autistic. Mm-hmm. And at the time, there wasn't a lot known about it. So because I was in the cleaning industry, I had them test my blood to see if it was anything that I had passed on to him. And they said, no, not at all. What it really, you didn't pass anything, but you have more chemicals in your body than an embalmed body. And that's when I realized that I had to really protect myself and those around me, including my children. So that's part of why I've gotten into this industry. And then, Ricky, you were asking me, why the name Doc? Is this PG version or?
Rated R. You say what you want.
So my father, and today, believe it or not, is the anniversary of his death. So 16 years ago today, my father passed away, and he was my hero. And he used to tell me all the time that a person's name is the most important thing that there is, the most beautiful words ever said. He said, and everybody calls us by the wrong last name. Our last name's Craddock. He says, most of the time people call us Dax, Dex, Ducks, and most of the time Dicks, and we're not Dicks, we're Docs. So when I started this company up, it was more or less to kind of, remember my father and everything that he stood for, because he was a man of integrity.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. I appreciate it. Jordan, let everybody know who you are, my man.
Yeah, Doc, thanks, man. That's, I want to reiterate or second this idea of the notion of legacy and that sort of thing. Because there's a similar type of heritage here in that my situation's different. And so I'm a third generation owner in the company, Frantz Building Services. We're based out of Kentucky, and our company has offices in 3 states, and but it was a company my grandparents started, and they were really poor, but people of integrity and really hard work. And my granddad was in the Army, and my grandmother was a German immigrant, but didn't have a pot to pee in, sort of thing. And they just worked really hard, and they never saw. My granddad passed away in 2000, and really never got to see any major fruits of his labor. So the company had just reached $1 million in total revenue after like 15 years of labor, and when he passed away. And if only he could see what has happened since then, would just tickle me to death for him to know that. But so yeah, it's a similar sort of feel here that we're standing on the shoulders and trying to emulate some virtues and things that have been passed down to us as well. And that's good, man. That's part of what families are for, and why they're good for society. So, but my name's Jordan, and I'm married, and I've got 5 kids, and they're all young. And with this pandemic, they're all at home, and my wife's about to go crazy. Anyway, in our company, Doc, you mentioned a little bit more health-related cleaning, and ours is going to be a little bit more traditional in that our focus is going to be more traditional cleaning, and we're going to be in what I would consider more traditional spaces. So we're going to be in large commercial, manufacturing, education, medical facilities. So nothing really out of the ordinary, out of the box. And then as an aside, so in addition to that, Ricky had mentioned I do some other things. So I also do some coaching, consulting, and run an online mastermind group for janitorial business owners. And been doing that for about 3 years now. And there's about 100 or so owners in that group, and Ricky's part of it. And so it's just, you mentioned the ISSA show, and one of the motivations behind starting the group was just being able to connect with others and learn with others and from others. And then also, and Ricky, you've done a lot of this too, like just being an open book to others, like just because there's so much we can learn from each other, like just sharing our mistakes, just being, there's no like real big secrets that any of us have, right? It's all relationships and working hard. And so, as long as I don't share my client names and how much I bill them, like you can basically look at it if you want, there's nothing to hide.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing that I do. So,
well, thank you, Jordan. I appreciate that. You just nailed a great piece of information that a lot of the listeners in the audience, just to give you guys some background on cleaning and cocktails. We're doing this to empower the small business industry. Not that I'm trying to neglect the larger size cleaning companies and facilities companies, but there's 35,000 new cleaning businesses that start every year. But the turnover is almost just as high, right? Like people will start the business, think it's easy, think it's a low cost entry vertical to get into, but there's a lot of trials and tribulation. It's tough. It's not easy to start a cleaning business because you still have to know business too. So I think that's when you say legacy, you're a 3rd generation. That's amazing. I actually forgot. I thought it was 2nd gen, 3rd generation. That's even more of an accomplishment, right? It's been going for so long, and you're right. Your grandfather isn't here to see some of those. So, where you guys gotten to right now, right? Which is pretty amazing. So we'll get more into the growth of the business and your tactics and strategies. And we'll emphasize on training a lot here, because I think training is something you guys both do very well. So, but let's get back to before cleaning. Jordan, we'll start with you. Like, did you just out of high school get into the cleaning business with the family, or was there did you take a different route?
Yeah, man, I always wanted to be a cleaner. So, actually, it's fun. I'm glad you asked that question, because the more people you talk to, you realize like almost no one intentionally got into this industry, right? And that's part of the beauty of it. And so I was an arrogant jerk of a teenager, and I'm sure I gave my parents fits, and they made me clean and do things to make money, because they were good parents, and they made me pay bills and, pay for my car and that sort of thing. And I hated it. It was embarrassing to me, all those things. And so I ended up going to college. I ran cross country, and I ran in college as well. And I went to a school in Tennessee called Tennessee Tech University. And it's a small D1 college, and got my degree in civil engineering. And And about halfway through my degree program, I was like, man, this is not what I want to do the rest of my life. But it's like getting all the way through med school. It's like, well, crap, like I'm already in, like I can't just like, waste all this time. So I went and completed my degree. But I knew I wanted to do something in business, like something entrepreneurial, something where I could lead, manage, something besides sitting and designing roads and bridges and sewer systems and, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I worked for a small construction company out of college and got to be around some really cool people there. It was in Nashville. And I got married right out of college as well. And during that time, I started reading a lot. I used to hate reading, but I started listening to like Dave Ramsey and Zig Ziglar and some other really entrepreneurial type people. They just were really inspiring to me. And I thought that, man, these are really good men. They're doing a lot of really cool, noble things. And it was just exciting. I was like, man, I'm just a really ambitious person. I'm just wired that way. Like I'm restless. Like I just love going out and trying things. And so they just gave me a hunger for wanting to do that. Like I just was not content to be sitting doing one thing for a long time. And that's just the way I'm wired. Not everybody's wired that way. And thank God that they're not. The world would be a mess if it was nothing but entrepreneurs. Like we would just screw everything up. We have a million good solutions and we wouldn't have the ability to carry any of them out. And so my dad came to me and said, hey, we'd like for you to join the business. We feel like you've got some skill sets that, you could offer and just help us grow. And my dad was humble enough to be like, hey, I've grown the company a little bit, and I feel like I'm kind of tapped out and I don't really know how to take it further. Would you come and help us? So he's like, I'll just match whatever they're paying you, which wasn't a lot. And so my wife and I moved back to our smaller town and I had no job description. I had no idea what I was going to do. And neither did my dad. And so yeah, that's how I got into it. And over the years, I went from still being a little bit embarrassed about it. Okay. So it's kind of like pride in me coming out. Like it was not sexy. But over the years I've grown to really enjoy it and it's been good for me and my family and for the people that work here. And I'm very proud to be a part of this industry and in my company. And, it's shame on me for my views in the past.
Wow. Yeah, I couldn't agree more as far as it's not glamorous, right? It's not, but it doesn't need to be, right? Or we can make it glamorous the way we run the day-to-day or operate the business. Doc, you mentioned why you got into, the cleaning industry a little bit, but what about beforehand? Like what led to?
Believe it or not, I've been in this all my life.
That's right. You did say 36 years, right?
Yeah.
Jordan, this guy's been in this for 36 years.
I just look young. Good genes. But like Jordan, I'm very, humble about, my early days in this industry. I went to college out of high school and I went to some community schools because I was actually when I started college, I was 17. So I was a young 17. I wasn't, mature because of where my birthday fell. So I really, needed the support of my parents. So I went to a small 2-year school and then I went to a 4-year college. It took me 5 years to go through college. My parents were not wealthy, like Jordan. My background. I'm German. Hardworking and Irish. My father's German and Irish. My mother's all German. And they taught us so many, the value of hard work. You put in an honest day's pay. An honest day's work for an honest day's pay. And as my father used to tell me, and he had a learning disability. He was very dyslexic and he could hardly read. And yet he'd dress in a shirt and tie for his job at Eastman Kodak Company every day. And it wasn't because he had a shirt and tie job. He said, you dress for where you want to end up and you act that way. Hence now you see why, I have the feeling that I do that. My dad's hard work ethic and he was my hero. And I did. I started cleaning at our church at the age of 14 for 25 cents an hour. I'd clean the church itself. I'd also clean the front office area. I went on to work at a small store in our small town called Spencerport in New York, and worked for one of the local 5 and dime stores. And part of my duties incorporated having to do the cleaning. And then going to college, and I got married right out of college, and I couldn't afford the mortgage. So my cousin had worked for a large janitorial contractor, and they had been after me for quite a while to come join them. So that's really where I got my first exposure to, heavy duty commercial cleaning. And at the age of 23, I was an operations manager for them with over 350 people working for me.
Wow.
And I thought I was the cat's, pajamas back then, so to say. Probably not as cocky and stuff. I was very introverted as a youngster. Left to there to go work for a friend of mine who started a cleaning business. And I helped him start it from the ground up. And I realized how much I enjoyed doing those types of things. And I worked for him for, I think 14 years before I left. And I went to a franchise. And when I got interviewed for that job as the director, one of my questions was, is this what you are? And he said, no. I said, okay. And I got to admit, he wasn't what my question was, but he was a lot worse. And I ended up getting let go. And because I was older in the industry, nobody wanted to hire me for my knowledge. Everybody wanted me to come in as entry-level employee. And I'm like, I haven't spent 20 plus, almost 30 years in this industry, to start out at the base ground again. So I cashed out my 401k and I started this company 7.5 years ago. And haven't really regretted my decision at all. And like Jordan, when I got out of college, I remember the first night working at that larger janitorial firm, and I'm walking with a restroom cart, and I saw some people that I graduated from high school with, and my head immediately went down. I felt like it was a shame, but I've realized, like Jordan, that this is a great industry. And seeing both of you much younger than myself, I'm so happy to see so many young people are looking for this as a future. And, it's very empowering. And I bet you both that with what's going on in the world today, everything that you have learned via book learning, everything that you have learned going into all of this with managing of people, it's beyond that. Our community's been hit hard with this because I'm from New York State. I mean, we were the first state to shut down. We're still shut down. And it's frustrating to see a lot of other states opening. And 90% of my clients were deemed unessential. So they're all at home. So how do you replace that much work? And I have. I've worked my tail off to keep all my staff working, and, grow. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that, Doc. I mean, Jordan, we are, you could say we're the younger versions, right now in this space. But I got to say, as I'm on Facebook, as I'm at the shows, as I am in networking events, I'm seeing a lot more people wanting to get into the service space, in the service industry, because there's no prerequisite, right? Nobody goes to school for cleaning, right? But they go to business school,
and if they're go to school for it.
Yeah, that's true, right? Yeah. But I wanted to quickly touch back on before we get into some training questions and operational stuff is, Jordan, family business legacies, right? So I'm in the same boat as far as I'm building first gen business here myself, but you following in the steps of your father and grandfather, there's a lot of these assumptions of, family business is tough. And, I would never build a business with my family. I bet you share the same sentiments as me, as I wouldn't have it any other way as far as, yes, there's a lot of turmoil, but what do you think are, because there's going to be a lot of people listening and people in the industry that, they got a cousin, a father, an uncle, a sister, a wife, husband, that they say, do you want to do this? Should we do it? That's how me and my wife did it. She was my girlfriend. We quit our jobs together to do this. What's your advice on family business? What makes your business work?
Yeah.
In this sense?
So let me, Doc, one of the things you said that I love, man, is that the risk that you took. And man, like that just inspires me so much. And it was really, to be honest, is a risk that I didn't take. I didn't have to put everything on the line for me. And so one of the blessings of being in a multi-general business is that I didn't have to do that. So I'm literally able to stand on the risks that somebody else took.
Right.
And so when you think about, so there's a few things that play here. And we talked about younger people in the generation and it being a good industry to be in. So like, there's this idea that, that there's, number one, that all work is good and noble work. And so like when you're doing something multi-generationally, you're creating a legacy in your family. Mm-hmm. And really for the team that you're building up, and you're kind of displaying that culture that, hey, we're providing a good service and this is honorable, good work, and so there begins to be a legacy that just because I had an education did not mean that I was any better than my dad or my granddad,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
And time has taught me that. And so that can be good. So there's a ton of, so as I think about like the benefits, okay, we'll talk about some benefits, maybe some drawbacks and how we've overcome them. But some of the benefits of that, like just the ability to shape your family tree is one. And so on so many levels. So like the ability to, teach and train your kids about, and whoever's involved in the business, just about what it means to make money and what it means to serve people and what it means to work hard and what it means to take risks. And, all of those things can be a really good thing. And then, as for our family, we were always really close. Okay. And so, my parents displayed that same sort of closeness. My parents had a really good marriage. And so they had a good work balance and home balance. And my mom's philosophy, and my dad too, has always been our family relationships matter more than anything else, more than money or anything else. And we're just never going to let that get in the way. So if it means we can't work together, it'll mean we can't work together. If it means that I'm going to give up some money in order to make sure we can eat dinner together on Sunday, that's what we're going to do. And we're just not going to fight about work. And I swear to you, in the 12 years that I've been here, we have not fought. And we've had some disagreements or whatever, but like we just have prioritized that. And so I think if that can be done well and the relationships are strong and the priorities are right, because, there's the old classic saying that comes out of the Bible, that the love of money is the root of all evil, right? And so if that creeps in the business and you care more about the money than the relationships, man, you are going to burn the bridge, right?
Without a doubt.
Yep. And so I think if the relationships are strong, I think it's awesome. But also I think it's something else that was important is my parents recognized, and I see it too, that there has to be a chain of command. And so we have to realize that we're equal and we all have the same dignity, but at the workplace, there's a chain of command and we're going to file in. So when I came and worked, like I honored my father, and even now, even though I'm co-owners with my parents, I still, as my parents, would honor them in a situation. And so, and I'm lucky, or we're fortunate in that we don't have a lot of other relatives in the business. So it hadn't got, real dicey, but we still had to work out things because my parents now have a certain net worth and my siblings don't work in the business. And, my parents feel obligated to them in some sort of way. So we've had to navigate some waters, but, so family businesses can be a train wreck. And I would say if you feel like it's headed down that road, then you should avoid it. But it can also be a huge blessing, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. I love my parents. And I love our family business, and it's just been a huge blessing for us. I think it's great. And I love that you're that way. I love when I go to the shows and I see you and every relative is there. And I just love that, man. And one of the things that I think it's something that, this is a pro-immigration moment here, but like the Hispanic community has strong family values. Yeah. And our culture needs that. And I love that you guys bring that to the table in the workplace. I think it's awesome. And I would love to see more of that. So,
oh man, when you talk about family, I've got 17 family members in the business. I think what it does too, is it allows everybody to wear multiple hats. So I think that's the biggest sense of respect that a lot of my family members that come into the business, that they see is damn, Rick, you didn't just rise to the top, or your wife or your cousin or, our brother, or everybody has to do the work. Nobody gets a free ride to a management position. I even hate the word manager. Like, to me, everybody we've taken the word manager out of every business card, and everybody has the word leader behind it. Because what manage, you're maintaining business. Leader, you're leading the forefront. So I've taken the word manager out of a lot of different titles, because titles too. It's like, what is a title? I mean, it gets, and that's what I've taught my family. I've had cousins and uncles, and we've had those issues where we fight. But like Jordan, like you said, we fight for a moment. Tomorrow I'm the biggest. I forgive everybody. I mean, you're my best friend with 30 minutes. I forget about the fight. That's like one thing my wife laughs. She's like, Rick, how do you forget about the issue we just had 20 minutes ago? I'm like, babe, I don't even know what you're talking about anymore. I already moved past that. So, I mean, that's different traits for different people. But next topic, and now I want to get into the meat and potatoes of the conversation, because I think you guys have a lot of knowledge in the training sense, where I don't think cleaning businesses can grow if they don't get the training and they don't get the people right. So, Doc, you've got all these acronyms behind your name. Give us a little background on, and you said the trainer, and you go to the ISSA show and CMI. Is it like going back to school, or is it just dedication for you to like give people that don't know what it is to get certified in some of these areas? What is that like?
Right.
How do they do it? What's the resources that are out there?
Okay. So I do a lot with the ISSA. I'm one of their master trainers as well. So I do a lot of teaching of their practices, and we use all of the ISSA practices within my own organization as well. They're one platform that's out there. There's many others. And then you asked about the acronyms, like the CPT. That's a certified professional trainer. And that means that you've gone through the ISSA's Train the Trainer, and they teach you to be a trainer and how to set up a room for maximum training, different icebreakers that you're able to use, training techniques, understanding that not everybody needs to be trained on everything. If you have a strong inspection program, you're able to target, because one thing in our industry, particularly with all of us being in the commercial janitorial world, is that there's not a lot of time to train, because a lot of our clients want stuff done at bare minimum. And most of what goes into our bid package is the labor. So sometimes it's maybe 10 or 15 minutes you have at a time. So taking that class, you're able to take a 36-hour class, and you can break it up over the course of a year and teach it in smaller morsels so that people understand. The ICE is an industry certified expert. That was also through the ISSA. Very intense to show that you're above and beyond other individuals. The CAP, that's a certified audit professional, which is another program through the ISSA, because when you go out and inspect a building, you want to make sure that you have it so that you and anybody else that works for you, that your scores are all within a certain deviation of each other. You shouldn't have a person going in and inspecting your building and have it at 100%, and another person go in and have it at a 60%. When you do your grading, they should be within a very close parameter of each other. Otherwise, people aren't looking at the right things. And in it, you're looking for the old dirt, not the new dirt. So if you walk in maybe 2 hours after a business opens and you see some hole punches on the floor right near, a secretarial station or a copy center or something like that, it may tell you that, okay, that just happened because maybe they pulled some recycling out. But if you find it all, up under the edges of the equipment, along the corners and edges, well, now that's a service issue. So that's old dirt. So those are what is behind the acronyms for behind my name.
And then I think, so then before we get to Jordan real quick too, is Doc, you said something to me earlier about consulting.
Yep.
So you also have a consulting service? I
have consulting, Doc's Facilities Consulting. So I do a lot of the ISSA training through it, but with this pandemic, I've even had other organizations come to me and say, can you put a training program for us for our industry to keep our people safe and show them how to use the personal protective equipment. Because I was almost appalled when I was watching a news show maybe a month ago. They said, yeah, nobody knew what PPE is. PPE is, come on. And the whole thing about, I had posted something and it got nearly 10,000 views in regards to don't mix these chemicals, because everybody thinks that they're super ingredients, so to say. But yes, training is so important. I have that side. I help other small businesses like Jordan does. I've even had people fly in from Nigeria to take my class, Belgium, Australia. So I have people come from all around the globe, which I feel very humbled by, because if you ask most of the people around the Rochester, New York area, just say I'm the fat guy, in Rochester, New York. I'm no different than anybody else.
Yeah.
Jordan, love that.
Yeah.
And I can't even really say that now because I've lost 59 pounds since September of last year. So, I mean, oh yeah. Jordan.
So like this is why I love doing this too, is I like to bring people together too. Cause I think, Doc, you said you and Jordan knew of each other, but I don't think you guys have ever really met. And then Jordan, I thought his perspective on the way he approaches training is a great segue to, Doc, you mentioned ISSA a lot. I know me and Jordan met each other at BSCAI, and there's that whole other aspect too. But
right.
Jordan also has a training platform that I'll let Jordan talk about, where
I've got one as
he's
well.
he's really focusing on training. And Jordan, I want you to kind of and I know you came from the way you guys operate within Frantz building, but
yeah,
look, you're empowering the industry too to share that knowledge, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It sounds like I need Doc to host one of our webinars here coming up. Ring, man, I think you got a lot of stuff. So it's interesting. So I'm glad you paired us together, because I think Doc and I have probably, as we think about training, two different perspectives, probably that come out of our strengths.
Mm-hmm.
So I hate the thought of the technical side of training. Like, I can't
love it.
And so for me, one of the things I realized early on, and so early on I would be like, oh, that's just not really that important, and we got other more important things to do, like, make sure customers happy, getting new sales in the door, that sort of thing. But we can't neglect, all the aspects of our business are important to make it run well.
Right.
And so for me, I had to bring people on my team that were good at that and were wired and gifted more in that direction and more methodical than myself to be able to bring that sort of thing about. And so interesting, Ricky, you mentioned people too, and I think people is important in this, as specifically as we think about our leaders in the organization. So an approach that we've taken, so I would say that really we've been a little bit weak in terms of technical training, in terms of a formal process, but where we've been strong is building a mentoring type culture here. So we've really worked hard to get the kind of leaders on our team that we call them humble blue collar professionals. So they're the kind of people that can, talk to a customer well, but they're not afraid to get their hands dirty, and they really care about people. And so they really invest time with them to help train them and nurture friendships with them and all that sort of thing. And a classic example of this is we have a lady who used to run an addiction recovery program that's now one of our managers. And one of her employees, who's now been promoted with us, her babysitter fell through and she couldn't get to work that day. And this manager went home and watched her kids for her so she could go to work and make money. Wow. Someone like that, you think, oh my gosh, you are amazing. And, you obviously can't do that for everybody, but that sort of thing made it to where that person looked to her and she trained that person. And now we've got two awesome staff members, Yep. So that's kind of been our approach, but we've quickly realized as we've grown. So when we were small, it wasn't that big of a deal, but now that we've grown and I don't even know all of our managers really well, to be a good leader, I can't just assume everybody's doing it right. And so we needed to create some sort of a platform or a process to make sure that we were having consistency across the board in emphasizing the cultural aspects we want and also the technical training aspects. And so you mentioned, Ricky, we've been working on a technology project, a learning management platform where we're going to be delivering content that can be all done digitally. And it's not going to take the place of that manager-employee relationship. That's got to be there. But it'll help ensure a consistency across the board and help with communicating all the things that need to be communicated. And so if in our industry, we realize there's a dispersed staff, it's really hard to invest the time needed for training. And I don't care how well you try to do it, the customer's just not willing to pay for you to do all the kind of training you need to. And so we had to find other creative ways. That's kind of the impetus behind that platform. And so we're in beta testing mode. We've invested a ton of money in it and have a video team working on stuff. And but we're about to start rolling it out to a few clients to try it out. And we're trying it out internally right now. So yeah, man, it's long overdue that our industry starts ramping up our game in terms of all these tools.
And it's interesting, you guys, too, because it's like, because I'm I've been there too, where I was the trainer for my, the first 3-4 years. I would go on site, train the team to what I thought was, acceptable for the services that needed to be done. And then, but I always struggled until I found the right person to take over quality control, right? But for the small business owners that are out there that only have 5, 10, 15, 20 employees, it's hard for them to find that person. So that's why, technology is key, right? Doc, you go into the technicalities, right, of training is important because they've got to do it themselves. As an owner, as the business owner of your company, you've got to learn it first. And we got to do everything we can to streamline the process. But man, I got to tell you, there is no magic to training, right? Like
I've got magic pixie dust.
Yeah. Like it's hard work, it's commitment, it's the people, and that's where
there's a couple of challenges that we saw and we're trying to figure these out. So, and I'd love to hear Doc's thoughts on this. I hope I'm not derailing the conversation, but
training is the main topic. Go for it.
So, one of the things, there's a tension at play between all the things we think someone needs to know versus what will I give them that they will actually listen to and actually apply and learn and apply to the job. And so if I'm thinking, okay, I need to safety train them, and I go to look at OSHA for all the things I need to train them on, they're going to end up watching an hour or 2 hour long thing, and they're going to remember nothing. But if I go out and say, hey, first week on the job, watch out for these 3 things. Don't put your hands down in a trash can to press the trash down, don't try to lift the bag out without turning the cart over, a couple of they're going to remember that, right? And if I have a good video that goes along with it. And so we're trying to deal with this tension of we've got to create stuff that people will watch and that they will actually learn and apply, knowing that it's not the complete thing. And the manager's got to come along and supplement that slowly over time. But we can't hit a home run on the first week. We just can't do it. We got to get them. They got to take a risk and just get them out there. I'm trying to navigate that.
One of the things that I do, Jordan, is, which you probably have already can tell a little bit, is I try to be comical, and humor definitely helps. And I'm the only English-speaking white person in my entire company. Most of my company is made up of single mothers, and a lot of them are Spanish speaking. They're all from Puerto Rico. So some of the things I've done to try to earn their trust is I've been teaching myself Spanish during this quarantine so that I can work with them. My 2 closest confidants within my company, Marilise Alvarez Rozalado, who's my supervisor, definitely, she gave me something that says aim to inspire. So that it's in my office. She says every time, Jefe, which means boss.
Oh yeah.
She goes, Jefe, this is what you do for me. You inspire me each and every day, and I learn so much from you. And then Sonia, who's my admin and my HR assistant, she is an amazing story. And when she came to the United States, she's taught herself English. She couldn't speak a lick of English. When she started working for me a little over 2 years ago, she probably knew about 20 English words, and she's taught herself English. She doesn't have even a high school education, and she spends so much time self-training herself within her job on HR stuff. I found her a mentor, and we have this service where it's another small business here in the Rochester market that does HR work. So she works with Herman to ensure that, if she gets stuck and has any questions, that she works with him. And I try to make things comical. And I asked Ricky before the show started if he had seen my little video of, the salt and pepper, rap hit, let's talk about sex. And I changed the lyrics to let's talk about germs. And I'm sitting there shaking a partial gallon of hand sanitizer on one hand and a partial quart bottle of disinfectant in the other, standing in front of 4 cases of disinfectant and rapping to the song the best I could. And I posted it. I think my staff was a little bit more embarrassed for me, but you know what? That's part of how they learn.
Yeah.
And they ask a lot of questions. So I try to keep things as light as possible. We all know that it's a very negative business. It's not like people call us up and say, hey, that's a great knot you tied on the bag last night.
Yeah.
No, we get the call for the one trash can out of a million that we missed,
I think
you believe you missed that trash can in the back office that nobody's been in for 5 months, and we finally put somebody right.
Yeah.
That's what really happens, right?
So I think that's what gives us then a good opportunity. I mean, I think you guys are nailing it, where we got to add some flavor, some color, right? Some new age type of approach to things where, Jordan, you're talking about video content. That's the future. Like, yeah, I'm tired of seeing a 2-hour OSHA video that I know my staff is not going to listen or watch. Let's make a 15-second clip. Why? Because they're used to, 5, 10, 15-second Instagram stories or feeds. They all, and social media is relevant. So how do we create training content like social media does, right? Or how you would do it in social media. Doc, you're talking about, learning Spanish and, having fun with it. Like, let's make training fun. Let's make employee recognition fun. Yep. And I think owners of businesses they got to do that, or have a chief people officer, you want to call it. Let's take some ideas from these technology companies that have great culture. And it's not that they just have this great company. They have somebody who's in charge of that. So I think business owners have to first do that themselves and then maybe assign somebody, but learn from, there's these small companies here in Chicago. My buddy Saul's got this sick following, shout out to him right now, but he's got a great social media presence that you could tell his employees live, breathe his brand, right? I got to believe that hopefully my employees do too. But, it's like, if we don't practice it, and I think that's a whole nother topic, that's another way to train better is, have some fun with it. Let's not do nothing against manufacturing, but, I used to work at a corrugate printing company that they set me down for 6 hours to look at a training video. I could not tell you one thing that came out of there other than red is bad.
Yeah,
red is bad. That's it.
Ricky, if you look at trends in advertising and marketing, like things that people like, so, I mean, you can't go beyond 2, 3, 4 minutes, 5 minutes for something, because attention, I mean, really it needs to be less than a minute for a lot of stuff, but if you're marketing, and then another thing, people are really wary of overdone stuff. So like in terms, if it looks overly professional, I think because we're marketed to and bombarded so much, like people are dying for authenticity.
Yeah.
The humor that you're talking about, Doc, is perfect because it's like they want to see that you're vulnerable, that you're a little bit jacked up.
Oh, I'm vulnerable.
There's nothing more vulnerable than a white guy trying to rap.
Exactly. And actually, one of my friends commented, "Hey, y'all, like, we gotta make this go virtual because he's brave."
But Doc, you mentioned something else. Like, if you look at your client, or I'm sorry, your team members, and a lot of them are single mothers, and we think about creating a culture. And this is another aspect to the Clean Train You platform that we're working on. Is we want to be able to connect with those people. So you think about that demographic, like those mothers and the needs that they have. And we struggle with a turnover in our industry. One of the big things is people just don't feel connected. Like they're out on a job site by themselves. They just don't get a lot of communication from us. And it's hard for us. And so like, if we can let those moms know that, hey, you're awesome. And like, we care about you and let us demonstrate how we care about you. Like, let's just make them feel like they're in our family here.
Yep.
You know, maybe we can have a broader impact. They're not just pawns for us to make money with. Like, they're people that we can invest in, you know, on many levels. We just got to figure out ways, and I think technology is great in that, to be able to communicate.
Yeah. So I wanted to shift gears a bit here and talk about the topic that everybody's talking about right now, right? COVID-19, where I wanted to what's that? To still stick along the lines of training and operations, right? Is what, like, you know, Doc said, 90% of your business, you know, stopped and paused. But would you guys share the same sentiment as me to say, this is probably the best time to look at your business, you know, work on your business, figure out certain things that you feel you could improve on and execute on those? One for us is training. Like, you know, we had a big meeting here for the Rozalado staff to just go over again, like clean versus disinfecting. We have got to shift towards disinfecting. And if we're going to, we got to train for that, because a lot of the staff's not ready for that, or, you know, the customers haven't, you can't even say paid for that, because now it's got to be like, it's disinfecting or no cleaning then, right? So that's some of the stuff that we're talking about. But how has COVID-19 affected, like, Jordan, your business right now? And what are the pros and cons? Because I have seen some pros come out of this, and to me is the reorganization of our structure. So let's start with you first on COVID-19 and your business today.
Good question. So we've taken probably a 10% hit in total revenue. And again, Doc, all that's location driven. I mean, if you watch viruses, there's just hot spots for this virus. So, and we're just,
don't feel bad, Jordan, because I've been able to work hard enough that we only have a 14% hit.
There you go. Nice. Awesome. Kudos.
That's awesome, man. So a couple things that come to mind. I think it's surfacing. Any crisis like brings to head critical issues really fast. So, like, you know, what we care about in life, what's important to us, you know, and also does the same in our businesses. So a couple of things it's helped us think about is the way, as we think about strategically going forward, what do we want our client mix to look like? And so, for instance, if you bet all of your apples in one industry with this, so like, for instance, if you were a churches and schools kind of company, I mean,
you're in trouble. You
are in big trouble, right? Or, you know, and you can think of any number of industries.
Hospitality, right?
Yeah, and even so small, hospitality. So you begin to think about, like, so being smart about how you diversify, I think is good. So that's one thing that's helped illuminate for us some important things. Another one is, this probably is something that you're going to talk on, Doc, is just the strength of your relationships with customers. So number one, I think people are seeing the value of what we do more now than ever, which is it's exciting for us and our team. But our ability to navigate a crisis like this oftentimes is largely a function of our relationship with the customer. So the fact that Doc is able to get customers that are paying him, even though there's some things shut down, means that there was a really strong partnership there. And so if those partnerships weren't there and those relationships weren't there, I think you could really get screwed in a time like this. So I think
sometimes being number two is good.
Yeah.
Because when the other company struggles to keep their doors open with a time like this, then the next call is usually to us.
Yeah. Yep. So a third one that has really come to mind, I mentioned Dave Ramsey earlier, is being financially sound. And so we are not promised tomorrow. And we do not know what the future holds. And so we need, to the best of our ability, we need to be good stewards of the money that we have and the people that we have to be ready. You know, it's kind of like grandma save the money for a rainy day sort of thing. So we were not quite in the financial position that we should have been in, largely because of an acquisition that we did. But even then, our cash reserves weren't where they should have been and other things. And we're fortunate in that I think this is all going to get back to normal probably sooner rather than later, at least for the sake of our businesses. Other ones I think will still struggle, but I think going forward, we really need to clarify, you know, our cash position to make sure that we're ready for this sort of thing. So those have been a few things for us in terms of exposing weaknesses or strengths that we need to leverage more going forward.
Okay.
For us.
No, yeah, I definitely second that. The financial aspect, Yeah, man. I mean, we crunch numbers. I mean, it was a number. We thought we were at some point, but this allowed us to really dissect and say, man, if the standard is, 3 payrolls or 6 payrolls, to having cash reserves, holy crap. Like, I've got to readdress this because that's not the situation, So I agree with that, man. That's a big one. Doc, what about you?
I wish all the politicians would, have more of a panel of people that are advising them about all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, let's
Yeah.
have a medical expert, but then let's also put the
Small
business.
business.
Hey, man, those single moms out there, like, I gotta do
Yeah.
something.
100%.
I feel-
Or better yet, they
There's
can
no easy answer,
get
but-
paid.
That's right. Yeah, and there's no easy answer. I'm not beating anybody up here, but
Oh, no, I know.
certainly it's a lot more complicated, because I feel responsible for all these people here.
Yeah.
We are.
Doc, what about you?
I was very fortunate at the turn of the year, we actually picked up quite a bit of work. So we were starting to really trend upwards with growth and everything else. But as we all know, when you take on new accounts, there's a lot of cash outlaid up front because you don't know how soon you're going to get paid from somebody, as well as just the new equipment that you have to purchase for a job. And we have to pay that usually in net 30. So, there was a lot of outlay cash right coming out of the gate as I picked up, I think it was like 7 new accounts in the month of January. So, and then to have this hit, but they're also all companies that were deemed essential businesses. So it's part of what we've been able to stay on top of. Other things that I've looked at is Jordan says, looking at our business portfolio and diversifying it more. We've done a very good job of going in currently and working with some organizations that have their own in-house operations. Because everybody's looking at how buildings are being taken care of now. And we offered sanitation services in the common areas so that their staff could work in all the tenant spaces where people were still working. And that there was no threat. They didn't feel like we were trying to come in and take over or anything. So it definitely has helped because in those particular buildings and their senior care centers, they are some of the few places in our local region that don't have cases of COVID yet. And there's a lot of assisted living and independent living facilities here in the New York State area that have huge amounts. Mm-hmm. And in some counties, 100% of the deaths are in the senior living places. And the places that we've been doing this, there's not just nobody ill or sick with it, nobody's passed away. So I think it's a testament of where this industry is going to have to be. The clients that didn't shut down, we offered, some of them were like a 2-day-a-week service, while the other 3 days now we're going in and doing a sanitation to disinfection process in their facilities. So we talked to a lot of our clients, like Jordan said, and we were able to do a lot more with them, and they see the value too. Actually, the one client, he says, is a no-brainer because when we hired your company, he said, the amount of sick time that our staff was taking right after we hired you decreased over 60% the first year. And we've been there he was the second client I ever sold, so 7.5 years.
Wow.
And so he picked up the phone when coronavirus hit Washington State. I want you to, come in here and do this extra service for me. Tell me what it's going to cost. He says, I don't know anybody else who knows that in Rochester, and I need you to take care of me. I've been called upon by some manufacturing firms that didn't have trust in their current cleaning service, said he didn't want to make a change with them, but has me coming in on their off days to do the disinfection and sanitation in between their cleanings with the anticipation we'll take over after this is, gone through. So those are some of the things that we've looked at, as well as we're getting everybody on our staff trained with the 2-year cleaning certification through the ISSA on the basic side.
Okay.
So we're having in-house training. I have a 1,200 square foot training room with all kinds of equipment and supplies and materials, training tables. So it's a combination of using auditory, me talking. There's a lot of slides and stuff like that, so their vision is being utilized. But we also do a lot of hands-on training.
Okay.
So that and not just here's a toilet, this is how you clean a toilet, but when it comes to understanding the science behind cleaning and what does it mean to make water wetter. So, I can remember being in school. Like I said, back then it was like all black and white back then. There was no color. So you would have a slide underneath a microscope with a bubble of water, because it domes, and that's the surface tension. So one of the things that I do in my training is I'll fill a cup that's clear with water, and I'll float a paper clip on it, because you can float, and it has to be a metal paper clip. So you float this metal paper clip on it, and then you dribble a little bit of hand soap or even dish soap down the side, and as soon as it hits the water, that paper clip goes right to the bottom. And that's explaining how water is wetter, because it took me a long time as even a college graduate to understand what does that mean? Water's wet. What do you mean make it wetter? And by reducing that surface tension, it allows the soils to emulsify off the surfaces.
Man, you just look at that. See, Jordan, this is why I do this. I just learned something right there. I did not know that.
Think about, have you ever cooked scrambled eggs and the eggs stick to the pan?
Yeah.
Okay. And what do? You try to scrub it out right away, right?
Yeah.
And you work your butt off, even with soap and everything else. But if you put some water in that pan with a little dish soap, go eat your eggs while they're hot, and you come back, it wipes right out.
Interesting.
So that's all the science behind cleaning is.
Okay.
You got to let the chemicals work. And when you're stripping a floor, even as a young man, when I first started learning how to strip a floor, everybody wants to get down that machine right away after putting it. Don't work that way. You got to let the chemical.
That was me. No, I'm saying that was me.
That was me.
I didn't even dilute the stripper. That was going to be.
That's the other issue.
I was going to have, we're going to talk about a funny story, everybody, at the end, but that was going to be.
I've got a great one.
I didn't even dilute. I thought in my head, stripper. I'm just going to douse this floor. This floor's going to, VCT's going to come right off. I didn't dilute it. I just used straight stripper. Wow.
You need the water to move the emulsified finishes off the floor.
The VCT came off all right. It just came off.
Probably. Hey, he removed the adhesive.
Everything was gone. So you guys, I wanted to, because we do have probably like 5 or 10 more minutes here. I did want to touch on one more bit of information as far as think of the small business owner now more than ever too, because of COVID-19 and the pandemic that they're in. Not to say that it's not a good time to start a cleaning business, but if these small business owners are in their first or second year, we kept talking about training today, right? What is a tip or a piece of advice? And Doc, we'll start with you. You've touched on some stuff already where in this second year, somebody like me, I was always geared towards sales, selling, marketing. That's all I ever thought of. What training tip or operations tip would you give a small business owner today as they're growing instead of just sales and marketing direction that most go in?
Well, there's a couple aspects to that, particularly with the change in our marketplace now. You really need to understand what it is that we're doing and how we're doing it. That is key. And you get yourself even some basic training, pick up some books, read them, videos, invest in yourself, because that money that you invest in yourself, you can turn $1,000 class into $1 million company. So you have to invest in yourself. You have to believe in yourself. And, if I didn't have to really start this company in order to find a job, my best advice to anybody who is looking at starting a cleaning business from scratch would be to work another job concurrently so you have income coming in, because the first probably 3.5, 4 years I owned the company, I didn't take any pay. I put everything that came in back into equipment, into getting an office building, because I knew I couldn't work from home. So know yourself in that respect as well. And, when I started hiring staff, they had to be paid. So, and people, oh, how'd you do that? Well, I had a spouse that worked in another field. So that's kind of how it happened initially. That would be my biggest advice. Try to work it congruent with something else,
Okay.
and put the money right back in it, because, you're not going to be $1 million company overnight. It takes work and a lot of hard work. And in the early days, I can remember at the end of the month having enough money for 2 stamps, and I'd have 3 invoices that would have to go out. And I'd say, well, how the heck am I going to do that? And it's like, okay, well, on the way home, if I go here, I can go past this building, hand deliver this one, mail the other 2, and still have enough gas to do everything else I have to in the week. And again, talking about being humbled in this industry, collecting pop bottles and cans to make sure I had gas in my car.
Oh, yeah.
It is the humble beginnings of what Docs was.
Yeah.
And understanding that. And anybody that I hire now, none of them were here back then. They don't understand what it's like for the hard work that's been put in to get it to the point where I am now.
Oh, yeah.
But anybody who's starting that has to understand it's not going to happen overnight. And it's that hard work that you have to put in. As I say, blood, sweat, and tears. And it's a hell of a lot more tears than the other 2.
Yeah. No, man, those are some strong words, because it is humility and it's risk. Like I tell everybody all the time, I ate Jimmy John's and Dunkin' Donuts for the first 2 years, worked 18, 20 hours. And they look at what it is today and they're like, oh, well, you grew fast. I'm like, yeah, but what about the first 4 years? Nobody's ever talking to me the first 4 years. Now everybody wants to talk, right?
Nobody wants that story.
Oh man, it's rough. I got a funny story after this though. But Jordan, so in your case, right, is what's some advice? We could go the family route, but just again, I know, because you said it, you've grown the business so many times over since where it was. What's some advice that you could give, I guess, to say, what if companies hit that plateau, or I hit it, right? Is because you hit an area where it's like you don't know what you got to do to change things. What's some advice for you to give to people that feel that they are stuck right now?
Yeah, man. So you mentioned. So let me mention something I think would apply to somebody that just started in the industry, a year ago, and they've got $50,000 a year in business, or somebody that's stuck at a plateau of $1 million. Mm-hmm. You mentioned this low barrier of entry, so it's a good and a bad thing. So it's bad for me because so many people can come and compete with me. But it's good. It's great. It's one of those American dream kind of industries. Like you can go in and pave the way. So anybody can. There's no barrier to you being a bigger company. And so if I had to start all over again, okay, and if I'm doing what Doc said, like I've educated myself, okay, just on many levels, like just communicating with a customer professionally in the industry, I could go in with with 1 or 2 previous clients and go in and compete head to head with somebody that was a $10, $20 million company and do just as good of a job with them, as them, assuming the job wasn't bigger than what my cash capabilities can do. So, I think people need to have the foresight to where they want to get to and start, I'm not one of those, speak it and then it'll happen sort of people necessarily, but like you can say, hey, I want to be at this spot here and start working to fill those shoes out of where you want to be. And so there's no reason you can't go in and have, start developing a quality control program, as small as it may be, or here's how we're going to deal with customer issues, or here's how we're going to train. Like there's no reason that, $50,000 a year, you can't start doing that kind of stuff and selling it and competing on that level. And the same would go for someone that's stuck at $1 million. You just need to broaden your vision of where you want to be. There's so many people that I talk to in consulting, they're stuck somewhere. And it's like, I just want to pull them out of where they're at. And I want you just to get up above the clouds just to see where you can get to. Mm-hmm. They're just stuck. And so often it's a stuck in a vision of where I can be. And so, you said, believe in yourself and what you can do and that sort of thing. I think I would probably phrase it differently, but I would just say, hey, you need a map of where you want to get to, and then you just start doing things to get yourself there. And, there's no reason that you can't. And if you can't do some of the stuff yourself, hire somebody on your team that can.
That's the number one thing I tell people is you just need to hire the people, hire your weaknesses. I'm not great at accounting, hire a finance guy. I'm not great at HR, hired an HR person. And now you can leverage everybody's strong suits and skill sets to really take it to the next level. But what do you got to do, Doc? Like you said, you got to pay for it. So, I mean, I've probably only given myself 2 raises in the last 4 years, because it's got to go back. Yeah, it's got to go back to if you care more about the business, and my biggest mission, and I think you guys would agree, is create jobs. That's my number one thing. I want to create jobs for my area, for my community. Is if I'm creating jobs, people are happy. If people are happy, I'm happy. That's it. Like, I'm smiling when they're smiling. If I'm in a rut, they're going to be in a rut. I feel like you guys are the same too.
A few raises. That makes me feel good.
What's up?
So I'm glad you mentioned you've only taken like 2 raises.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you, if all the companies that are my size, I guarantee I'm the lowest paid CEO of all those companies. But not because we're not doing well, but because, it's just, you're right. You gotta invest in the company and the people, and they gotta see it. So
they gotta see it.
Writing me up in the Wall Street Journal saying this greedy CEO.
Yeah.
Greed.
So, all right. So, guys, to end this great conversation is a funny story. And Jordan, we'll start with you. Funny story of you.
Man, I was trying to rack my brain about this. I'm trying to think of things that were just really embarrassing for me.
Embarrassing's funny.
Yeah. So when I first joined the company officially in 2007, I tried to grow into a new market, into a new geographic area. And our second, I think it was either the first or the second client I landed was like a little small ITT technical school. And it was, I don't know, maybe $2,000 or $3,000 a month. I was pumped about the account. And literally and the lady was so nice to me. But literally within 2 months of starting the account, I hired this guy. And he locked his keys into one of his keys for the building in a room inside the building. And he tried calling the supervisor and couldn't get a hold of him. And it was an account that had to start at like 9 o'clock at night or 10. So, it's like 1 a.m. No one's answering their phone. And well, lo and behold, he was like, I've got to get these keys. So he just literally used force to bust down the door inside the building. And just tore up Jack to get and then never told anyone. So the next morning I get a call from my client saying, hey, one of your employees literally tore down the door in our building. And I'm sure we all have a million stories of where, staff has done things,
And he's probably like, well, hey, I was trying to get the keys, man. I thought you would be happy.
I can't he was trying to do right. I don't know. And so I'm sure we all have a handful of those kind of stories. Scott got to write a book on that stuff one day. History is a gold mine for good stories.
So much behind the scenes. Doc, what about you?
Oh boy, this is really going to put me out there and really embarrass me. So I worked for a very large commercial janitorial company, like I had told you guys, right out of college. And because I had the college degree, they felt, hey, this guy's going to fast track up through the ranks, which I did. But it also meant that I had to learn a lot of things very quickly. So they put me on the floor crew. And they tried to teach me how to use a low-speed machine. And the first time we all use a low-speed machine, what happens?
Well, you don't want to know,
right?
Yeah, you break. You break the wall to the left, you break the wall to the right.
Well, do you guys know where the shutoffs are for urinals?
No, but you probably found out because you were under the urinal.
I took a urinal off the wall in a college on the 4th floor.
Oh my!
This was back before cell phones. Okay, that's how old I am. Cell phones weren't even around yet. They had car phones, but not cell phones. And the facility manager couldn't get a hold of anybody. The boss, the facility manager. By the time we got a hold of somebody, over 60,000 gallons of water had flooded the college.
Oh my God!
And I thought that I might lose my job.
You didn't lose your job?
I didn't lose my job because they're like, what possessed you guys to have him train in a restroom? And they said, well, because we didn't want him to damage the walls in the halls. So that's one of many. And yes, Jordan, like you, people tell me I should write a book.
Yeah.
Because, my ex-wife and I, when we started, there was a 4-inch water pipe that burst in the ceiling that in a school in the boys' room, and everything was hanging from all of the acoustical tile ceiling, and it was in the urinals. And we know that, the urinal's this big, but, the drain that it goes down is only a 1/4 inch. So we had to scoop it all out by hand and everything.
Ugh.
I have got a ton of stories.
Awesome. Well,
It's
guys,
been fun.
it's been a pleasure. Thank you
you.
guys so much for it's already been like an hour and 15 minutes here. We could probably go on and on and on, but I just always forget to cheers in the beginning. So I want to end with a cheers to you guys. Thank you guys. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you for empowering this space and this industry. You guys are people to look up to and get mentored by and ask questions, right? So what I want to end with was, Doc, do you have your LinkedIn tag, or how does somebody reach you or follow you to get any kind of questions or?
Well, LinkedIn is my name, Joel Craddock, and it's CRADDSOCK, no I-O, Doc. And my website address is DocsFS for Docs Facility Solutions. So DOCSFS.com. Okay,
awesome. Jordan, what about you?
Yeah, it's Elite Business Coaching is a consulting practice that I run, and it's elitebusinesscoaching.net is where you can find information about there. And then that training platform that we talked about earlier is Clean Train U, like just the letter U, like Clean Train University. CleanTrainU.com is a place where people can go get a little more info about that.
Okay, so, and we'll be including all that stuff on the podcast and on the YouTube link, so people will be able to find you guys directly from there. And again, thanks guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Much
Rick,
love and respect.
Thanks for all you do, man, for the industry and everything else. So I appreciate you, man, a lot.
For sure. Awesome. All right, guys.
Well, thank you both.
Peace out. Peace out.
See ya.
All right, guys.